Proceed to Congressman Scott DesJarlais of Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, panel. I know it's getting to be a long morning. You've been sitting there a long time. We appreciate all your testimony. I think it's been reiterated a number of times today that we feel that this is a much better deal for Iran than it is the United States. And really, on paper, we should have the upper hand in these negotiations. Therefore, if it is our goal to truly ensure peace and stability in the region and prevent Iran from developing nuclear capabilities, why have we conceded to their demands, especially in regard to domestic uranium enrichment? General?
I asked the same questions, Congressman. I think a good macro view is that the Iranians needed a deal far more than we did, and we wanted a deal far more than the Iranians did. And we have made, I think it's fair to say, look, I worked with Nick in the same administration. This is really hard, and there were no easy answers. But it does appear to me that we've had a series of concessions in order to keep the Iranians still interested in the talks.
This may be an easy question for you all to answer, but for people listening and watching this hearing, why have we not stood our ground and insisted that Iran import its enriched uranium just as other countries do, such as South Korea, Italy, Spain, and many others?
I think that we moved away from that particular parameter, I suspect, that quite a while back, and maybe even during the Bush years. I don't know. The parameter that I think we should not have moved from is the position of the United States and the Russian Federation and People's Republic of China in 2013 was that Iran should have an enrichment program, but only a symbolic one that would essentially satiate their public diplomacy and public demands, but not necessarily be misused. I don't know why that position was changed in 2013.
I mean, I think it's obvious to most anyone if Iran is serious about not obtaining nuclear weapons, that's the claim they're trying to make in exchange for all this money, then they should be able to join 20 or 24 nations that are doing the same thing, importing their enriched uranium. So I think we've really dropped the ball there, and it clearly shows that Iran's intentions aren't peaceful. Ambassador Burns, do you agree with the President's assessment from April? And to quote him, what is more relevant fear would be that in years 13, 14, 15, they have advanced centrifuges that enrich uranium fairly rapidly, and at that point the breakout times would be shrunk down to almost zero. Can you please clarify that point for me? Do you or do you not support the arbitrary sunset in the agreement?
I think I understood the President saying when he spoke in April about the interim agreement that when the agreement lapsed in the 10 to 15-year period, that's when the Iranians could reconstitute their program theoretically, and that's when the breakout time would begin to diminish, as he said, almost down to zero. But I think he was talking about the period beyond the freeze of the first 10 years.
So you think it's a good idea for, do you think then it's a good idea for Iran to have an industrial-sized nuclear program?
No, I don't think it's a good idea, but I think that, our President and our Secretary of State have to operate in the real world of what's possible and not possible. I think this is the best deal that they could have achieved. I support it on that basis. But obviously, it's going to take a lot to make it work, and we've talked a lot about that this morning.
Ambassador, with all due respect, you're probably the only member on the panel that is openly expressing your support for Obama's deal. Yet in your opening statement, and I don't want to put words in your mouth so you can correct me, but you basically conceded that you expect Iran to cheat. Is that correct?
I think it's likely that Iran will try to cheat at some point. I think that's just an objective statement. But, I support it because I know how, having worked on this issue in the Bush administration, how difficult and complex it is. I think our national security will be met and be improved by locking them up in a box, freezing them for 10 years. And then, of course, any American president, if Iran tried to break out towards a nuclear weapon, would have the right and have the capability to stop them through military force. So I think the President and Secretary Kerry are to be commended.
Yeah, well, it looks like to me a case of Obama legacy building here, because from all the discussion we've had today, this is not a good deal. You're basically taking a hope and a prayer, hoping that the next president will be like Reagan and be able to do something to stop what this deal sets up. You think they're going to cheat. And, right now, Chairman Royce started this hearing saying that they're going to take this money, this unfreezing of billions of assets, and immediately use them to build tunnels into Israel and also give them smart weapons to further endanger Israel. Do you think that's cheating?
I think that we're going to have a very tough time implementing this agreement, but I also think it's the best for our national security interests. And I also think it's going to be a generational struggle. We're in a long-term struggle with Iran, and so it's going to be up to both Republicans and Democrats to figure out a way to contain them. I worry that if Congress disapproves, votes to disapprove, and then votes to override the President's veto, which the President threatened, it'll weaken the United States and weaken our position in the Middle East. And I worry about that.
And I respectfully disagree, and I yield back.
Thank